Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Minister, for being here today. I'd like to focus most of my comments or for most of my questions on Division 27 of Bill C-15. As you're aware, it's designed to protect Canada's economic sovereignty or economic security. Recently, in front of the Senate Foreign Affairs and International Trade Committee, Ms. Galadza stated that economic security is a broad term. In this context, it includes Canada's ability to manage foreign threats and shocks while guiding economic security such as imports and exports to support national security objectives and to foster growth. My first question, Minister, is are there any oversight mechanisms in place to assure any concerns regarding potential overreach or misapplication of these new powers?
This is a minor amendment to the Export and Import Permits Act, simply to ensure that the supply and distribution of the good in Canada or internationally are consistent with Canada's economic security interests. And so the power, if adopted, would be used only in limited circumstances and in circumstances after a risk-benefit analysis was undertaken upon careful and systematic consideration by my department. I have my official here, and he can speak to that, Mr. Brookfield.
So just to elaborate briefly on the process, the idea would be if this amendment passes, it would be an ability to add a regulation that would add a particular product described either by harmonized system code or some other method, and then it would be illegal to export or import that item without a permit. That permit could be granted automatically, for example, as is presently the case for softwood lumber, or be granted on certain conditions, such as further to an agreement with other countries or in order to support Canada's defence and to support our own industries.
And how would this new authority differ from the Governor and Council's existing authorities under the Act?
This particular limited provision makes it explicit that there is an ability in cases where the government needs to address economic security that it can act. It's a new legal distinction, and we believe that in this time of economic stress in the global economy, that it is necessary to provide government with this additional tool.
Thank you. My next question, does the government have a hard definition of foreign threats and shocks? And the reason I ask that is I'm curious if the Canadian government considers the Chinese government's documented interference in previous Canadian elections a foreign threat.
The work of Madam Justice Og in the Og inquiry was extremely important for analyzing different types of concerns relating to foreign interference. And we are responding to the recommendations in that report. In every engagement I have internationally, I speak of the importance of public safety and security, of the domestic situation in Canada, and I will continue to do that. National security is already a rationale in terms of this particular limited amendment, and we are simply asking to add the words economic security, which would then go through the regulatory process.
And my last two questions, does the domestic human rights record of foreign states factor into that consideration you just spoke of? And lastly, would the dumping of steel into Canada by nations such as China constitute an economic threat?
I want to reiterate that in my discussions with my counterparts, I always underline the importance of human rights, international law, and the domestic public safety and security. This is without exception. And in addition, I will say that we work with other countries. Indeed, as many examples from our chair of the G7 showed, in order to show consistent positions on human rights, and that those rights apply across the board. Engagement with countries does not mean endorsement. We raise these issues along with a host of other issues because we take them seriously. We have to be able to be at the table, to have the strength of our convictions to raise points of disagreement without destabilizing areas of cooperation.
Thank you very much. We next